Hello, Ohio. Welcome once again to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton, a retirement planning specialist of Axim Planning and Wealth. I'm your host, Spike Spengel. Tim, what's on your mind this week?
Well, we're going to talk about some red flags.
Oh, okay.
So
retirement red flags?
Yeah, that sounds pretty ominous, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but hopefully if we discuss them, we can help people avoid making these mistakes on their own. So retirement red flags. Folks, just know that you can reach out to the phone number and get started on your own complimentary retirement blueprint. The phone number is 855-684-3485. When you call that number, it's going to go to our call center, and we'll get you set up with your own complimentary appointment. There's no cost to come in and try to tackle some of the issues that we're going to cover here today. Tim, let's start out with the mortgage. I hear a lot of folks say that I want to pay this thing off. I don't want to have any debt in retirement.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing in and of itself.
Okay, but should we be taking 20, 30, 40, 50 grand from either an investment account, which we might have to pay taxes on, or from our cash liquid savings account to hurry up and pay off the house when hopefully you've already locked in a relatively low interest rate? You're going to have the income stream to be able to pay it off. What else could we be doing with this nest egg money rather than throwing it into the house?
Spike, that's the great question, right? You know, it's not that retiring with no debt isn't a good thing, right? I mean, I think every client that I've ever had that's paid off their house has felt good about it. It's a matter of how they paid it off. Where did the money come from? You know, if they just paid it off because they were making the regular monthly payments and they made the last payment, the house is paid off, that's fine. But one of the big mistakes that we've seen happen over and over again is where people will take a large withdrawal from a 401k or IRA with the idea, thinking, hey, this is a good thing, I'm gonna, eliminate this debt, but they're paying off something that they're borrowing at 3%, 3.5%, and they're taking money out of something that may cost them 15, 20% plus in taxes to do it, not to mention the future impact on those dollars, where if they'd let them grow, it could have produced more income.
I know it's a relief.
It is.
But my folks have been in real estate for a long time. I get it. But if you've got that income, whether you're turning on Social Security or you start to take it out of your investments, you're going to pay off that house eventually, hopefully, if you've been doing it well. So there really isn't a hurry for it.
And there may even be a situation where you don't pay it off. You just let it keep going because the rate that you're borrowing is significantly less than the money you have invested is growing. And it's been a long time since we've been able to have this conversation, but I mean, even in a CD or a savings account, rates right now are higher than what most people are paying on their existing mortgage.
Right. I think there's also been a lot of pain out there recently, of course, because of what's happened with interest rates and the housing market. The housing market was on fire 16, 18 months ago.
Right.
You go to an open house, it would look like a party.
It was a bidding war.
It was a bidding war, absolutely.
I mean, it was almost like an auction.
Now it's cooled off, though, and for those who are looking to downsize, it's become harder. I think a lot of folks thought they'd buy their house for $100,000, $200,000, 20 or 30 years ago.
Right.
Now they do have a $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 investment, figuring they're going to downsize it, but they're not getting as much house today. No. Now that's going to continue to happen, but it's again, should we be looking at that downsizing, or is right now for a retiree a time to hold off on real estate?
I think that the timing right now is not in the best interest to make that move. Everybody's different and every market is different. So it depends on, where are you going, what are the opportunity, what's the real estate cost. But, you're exactly right, Spike. We've seen, people downsize, but the cost of the new property is still the same. So, but they sell out of a $350,000 home, they get half the square feet, and they're still spending $350,000.
Yeah.
It's new, and it's all updated, and it's beautiful, but we don't typically see a recognition of a lot of extra capital. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes, we see somebody that's in a significantly larger home, and maybe they are selling an $800,000, $900,000 home, and they're going to a $500,000 home, and they indeed are bringing in $400,000. I mean, that is something that we see in the office. but a lot of times they're not. And then you have to look at, am I getting out of a house right now at the best time, and then where am I going to go? That's the big thing.
The thing with property and real estate, even as we get into retirement, is that even if you go into a smaller property, I think there are a lot of costs that go up. Because let's hope that as we're in our 80s or 90s, we're not cutting the lawn, shoveling the snow quite as much as you've said before, not getting up and cleaning out those gutters. Dad, leave the gutters alone. We can get somebody
Do not go up on the ladder.
Get off the ladder.
It's not worth the risk.
It's not worth it. So we're going to increase some of our costs. I'm going to throw you a curveball that you have no idea that's coming.
Okay.
Have you ever helped anybody go into any of these retirement communities where you sell all of your assets or you sell your home and you move into an all-inclusive community, whether it's out of state? What do you feel about those?
Well, every situation is different, and it's been interesting over the years because we've had clients that have done that. And typically in our area, what we see is you're paying an upfront cost, $100, $200, $250,000 in cash, and that basically guarantees you a place to live. And if you need elevated level of care, that's included. So that part of it is a great deal. There's typically also a pretty high monthly cost that comes alongside that, which again, if you have the cash flow to pay for it, not a big deal. We've had clients that have loved that. It's worked out for them. It's been perfect. It's worked exactly the way that it should. We've also had a couple situations where a client has moved into that scenario. Maybe a spouse passed away. They didn't do the planning behind that income going down, and all of a sudden that monthly income number is not what they wanted it to be. Or they just decide, you know what, I don't really like this. I thought I would like it, but I don't like it. And that's a big number sometimes to spend to find out.
And you're often really stuck in there contractually. I mean, it's worse than a timeshare because you've given up your assets to go ahead and be in there. I read a story recently. Please confirm it on your own by looking on the interweb because that's where all facts exist. But I did read this story recently where some of these communities now that once you've run out of assets, people in their 90s now are being turned out of the community because they can't afford to stay. Where is somebody in their 90s going to go? They've depleted all their assets. They went there to go and live.
Right.
So again, how do you help vet either the contract or the community to make sure that somebody can stay there comfortably?
Spike, that's a great point, is understanding the fine print. Because again, people hear what they want to hear. We see that all the time. And so they hear the good part of, I pay this money and I pay this monthly and I can live here forever. But they don't necessarily see some of those little pieces of information deeper into the contract. So I think it's important when you're making that kind of decision, at least in our office, what we do is we say, hey, let our attorney take a look at that contract. Let's make sure that we understand all the different scenarios and what would happen, because that is a thing. I don't think it is as widespread as, those stories are heartbreaker stories, so they end up on the news. But you need to know what the rules are, and you need to make sure that you're going to have the income to afford to live where you're choosing to live.
Right. Tim, we have a very short commercial message here. Please pay attention to this message. It's going to help you with your retirement planning. But if you'd like to get started on your own retirement blueprint to make sure that you can be and stay retired comfortably with choice and with dignity, call the phone number right here, 855-684-3485. More with Tim Lofton right after this.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carol and 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there every square. Happy birthday to you. You can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion
Ben, do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton. I'm Spike Spengel. And Tim, we're talking about some retirement red flags that hopefully we can help your viewers avoid. Another story, this came out from Financial Advisor magazine, that nearly 70% of parents with kids over 18 have sacrificed their own retirement savings to help out the kids.
Yes.
Look, we understand. We love the kids. We want them to go to college, maybe help out with the wedding, maybe help out with the first down payment on the house. But foregoing our own retirement, they better have a contract with those kids that they're going to pay for them when they need help in their 80s and 90s. How do you talk with folks about this?
Well, if you live in India, you're okay, because that culture, they take the parents in and they take care of them. That doesn't happen in the U.S. very often.
The closest we live to India is Indiana. That's next door over
and it
here
is
in
right
Ohio,
next door, right? So, you know, it starts with people making that decision because they really don't know what it means. They're making it from the heart, and I get it. I understand that, you know, you want to help the kids out. You want to give them all the opportunities, maybe opportunities that you didn't have yourself. You want to make sure that they have them, and that's great. But at what cost? At what expense? You know, we've had a lot of clients that have come through the office that have taken on the bills from college, right?
Yeah.
They've got those college loans, and they said, you know what?
Well, they co-signed on them.
They've co-signed them, and we'll pay them off.
You don't get rid of that.
And so that cash flow that's going to pay those loans, and those rates aren't cheap, and they're going up, is taken away from their ability to be able to save for their personal retirement. And you need to understand the cost of that. That's the bottom line here is, you know, if I do this, I'm going to have to work 3 years, 4 years, 5 years longer. If you come back with that answer, say, I'm okay with that, okay. But not knowing that answer is the problem.
Right. And what I'm also worried about, though, is losing out on one of the biggest things. Einstein himself talked about compound interest.
Compound interest.
Even those 3 or 4 years, I'll make it up later. I'll make it up with my catch-up provisions. I'll try to save more aggressively, but you don't know what the markets are going to do during that time frame.
Or the economy. You know, we've just come off of and are in a very high inflationary environment. That's taken a bite out. We have the potential for taxes to go up. That's taken a bite out. And so now not only am I behind, but I have other things outside of my control that are taking a bite out of it and pushing it even further. And so we've got to have a written financial plan, Spike.
It takes me backwards even a little bit. Do you talk to families in pre-college planning with kids? I mean, how far back do you do your retirement planning? Do you just need to have your viewers out there wait until they're at the precipice of retirement? When are you comfortable to start the planning process?
Well, it really depends. You know, our process, the Retirement Blueprint, was built around helping people transition into and through retirement. And I don't know that there's a specific age. I mean, we have people who have sold businesses that are younger that have the same needs and same concerns as somebody that's maybe 15 years older than them. And then we have other clients that have come to us at age 55 or 60. And then we have clients that have come to us at age 70 because the things that they did maybe with another advisor didn't work out. So listen, if you're at home and any of those scenarios ring true for you, or you just want a second opinion, you want somebody to take a look and make sure that you're on the right path. Maybe you think you are, maybe you are. But wouldn't you like to have somebody tell you, hey, yep, this is a second set of eyes on it. We agree with what you see. Give us a call. Let's sit down. Let's do a complimentary review and take you through our process and be able to give you another opinion on whether or not what you're doing is going to work.
Tim, I know that you are a retirement planning specialist. You help folks with, of course, your own retirement blueprint, which you created. I want to know if you eat your own cooking, though. You got kids right now.
Yes.
They're on the precipices of college.
Yes, they are.
Do you have these conversations with them? Are they part of the process with you to say, look, I want you to enjoy your college years. I'm going to provide this and this and this, but I also have to care about your mother and our retirement planning.
Right.
Is this an open discussion at the dinner table?
Well, we talk more about the cost of things. We live in a great community, and things are pretty good. I don't know that they get to see a lot of struggle per se, but we do talk about cost, and we've got 2 kids that are now starting to work their first job. We have another one that's going to be probably working in the next year or so.
Do they know that yet? They do now.
They do now.
They do.
They do now. But what's really come out of those conversations is now you can see how much money you're making. Look at this dinner bill. How many hours did you have to work for that dinner bill? They're now they're responsible for putting a tank of gas in once a month. And all of a sudden they're starting to see some of these costs, and then they're equating that to, well, I didn't make that much money, but I have all this expense. It's like, yes, welcome to adulting.
Yeah. By the way, it happens every single month.
It happens every single
It
month.
keeps coming.
And so that is helpful. I mean, most of the people that we see in our office have adult kids. I mean, that's just the scenario. Although I'll tell you, sometimes I think our kids are ahead of some of the kids that we see. Is, there's a generational gap there, I think, in the school systems and parenting.
Yeah. Well, part of
teaching that.
Part of why I was asking you about it is because of the financial education. In fact, this year's Financial Educator of the Year award nominations came out. I didn't get mine. Did you get yours?
I didn't get mine.
I did. Man.
I mean, we have a TV show and a radio show.
TV show. We do an hour on the radio show every single week. I didn't get. Come on, the Financial Educator of the Year awards. You got to at least nominate Tim for all that he does.
I want my award.
But for the younger generation today, and I believe even our generation and the generation ahead of us, it's the one thing that we hear at events, emails, and phone calls all the time. So I wish I knew more of this.
Right.
Look, folks, we cover a smorgasbord of retirement planning concepts every single week because we realize that the concepts are so vast. There is so much out there. And what we wish there was more of was financial education.
Yes.
So if you would like to get some financial education on your own retirement strategy, your income strategy, estate planning, taxes, healthcare choices, Social Security, all of that bundled together without any cost to you, all you got to do is call the phone number so you can come in with Tim, retirement specialist of Axim Planning and Wealth. Call 855-684-3485. More with Tim Lofton right after this.
Are you concerned that high inflation, rising interest rates, and stock market volatility may derail your retirement plan? If you're unsure how to manage your retirement withdrawals from your 401k or IRA to be sure you don't run out of money, at Axim Planning and Wealth, we'll help evaluate your retirement readiness. Contact us today for your own complimentary analysis and your very own retirement blueprint.
Welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axim Planning and Wealth. I'm your host, Spike Spengel, and we also cover a lot of topical stories on the weekly radio show. We do an hour there. You see this one on the Canton paper mill?
Yes.
Canton, not now. Here's the thing. It wasn't Canton, Ohio.
Not Canton, Ohio. Right.
Canton, North Carolina. The paper mill there, they blew their final whistle for the last time. Now, you never worked at anywhere where reminds me of Fred Flintstone.
Right,
with
the
end of the day whistle, or at the end of the day whistle, you're able to go to lunch or when you started in the morning, but here's the thing. It's a good old-fashioned paper mill.
We had a GM plant just down the street from us that went through similar things. So this is a great subject.
Yeah, and speaking of GM, and one of the reasons I was bringing this up is there is a new kind of phase that's happening right now with industries changing very, very quickly. GM had offered its employees, I think it was 58,000 salaried employees, a voluntary separation.
Buyout.
A buyout on their own. When we get phased out from retirement before we want to retire, that's huge. And there can be a lot of people right now watching the program and say, man, I hope I can work for another couple of years. I mean, I just need to finish that end line. What about people who are living in that fear right now of not being sure if they're going to be phased out and if they're ready to retire?
Right, and I think that is a great jumping off point there, Spike, because as we look at our retirement timeline, and we always ask that, how many more years do you want to work? And there's always a number. And then, the follow-up question to that is, what if you can't? What if there's a health issue? What if the employer, like this Canton, North Carolina plant, makes that decision for you? And so as we get towards the end of our working careers, I think it's very important, and this is something that a lot of times we don't think to do, is keep networking. You have a industry experience in doing whatever it is that you do. Stay in touch with other people in your industry. Make sure that you have options in this type of scenario where I know that if something happened at my current employer, maybe I can make a move to someplace else because I've kept in touch with and I have those options. The other piece that we see a lot of is where people are going to retire on paper and then go back to work. With being so close to Wright Pat Air Force Base, there is a lot of that. I have a friend that I play tennis with that just retired a couple weeks ago, and he said, you know what, I'm gonna take the summer off, and then I'm going to go right back to work, as a contractor.
Contract? Oh, okay, contractor.
As a contractor.
Yeah.
Because he has, a lot of experience in the defense industry. There is a bunch of defense contractors that would love to have his expertise. And so those opportunities, you want to make sure that they are always available to you. You don't want to wait and be reactive. You want to be proactive as we get closer, just to make sure that we have a plan B.
Are you sure though? Because this other story that we did on the radio show, Go Bank Rates is saying a new poll shows 78% of Americans do not want retirement age raised. We also talked about it on the radio program. What is it that France is complaining about? Going from, I think, 62 to 64?
Right.
We have the shortest retirement span in all of the civilized countries in the world, but I definitely don't want it pushed out any further. Although we have to recognize we are living longer though, right, Tim?
Right. Well, here's the thing with that study, and this is just my opinion, is we don't want the mandate of that age raised.
Right.
But the option is what we're talking about here, because a lot of times, as we get closer, and this has happened to me personally, I thought, when I was 25 years old that 50, 55 would be a great time to retire. And back in the 80s, that was a thing, right? As everybody wanted to retire at 55 and they were going to go play golf and do whatever it is they did. That didn't work out, by the way. But for me, now that I'll be 55 next year, and I'm looking at that, I'm like, I can't imagine retiring. I love what I do. I love who I do it with. And so the idea of being able to do what I do through age 65 or age 70 is very appealing to me right now. Keeps my mind fresh. I enjoy the interaction with clients. I love being needed. I love what I provide. And I think a lot of people are finding that today.
Right. And I'm curious about that, about retiring early. I think I hear a lot of the younger generation saying, oh, I'm going to make so much, I'm going to retire in my 50s. But look,
and that's the thing.
You could be retired, though, for 40, 45 years. You've said you take out your retirement plans to the minimum age of what?
110.
Okay, so you could be retired for 50 years.
Right.
We got to make sure we got enough income for that. But also some of the things on retiring early.
That increases those risks, right? Now, so if I spend 20 years retired, that's one doubling cycle in inflation. So I've got to double my income one time. If I spend 40 years in retirement, now I've got two doubling cycles that I have to deal with. That's twice the opportunity for downturn in the economy, twice the opportunity for some type of market disaster, twice the opportunity for taxes and inflation to take a bite. And most importantly, I've lost my peak earning years, my peak savings years, and I've eliminated a longer period for my money to grow when it was its largest amount. When
you talk about the possibility of going through another recession, not just the light recession we're supposedly in right now, another inflationary period, another set of stock market volatility.
Right.
I mean, the lifetimes. I know even from my childhood, stock market crash of '87. So Black Monday, we had 2000. We had 2007 and 8. We had what happened last year
COVID.
with stocks and bonds, COVID and so forth.
Right.
So even in another 20 years in retirement, there's probably going to be another couple events. The reason I bring that up is not to be negative, is how can you lock in consistent gains and income to make sure that these events don't stop your retirement 20 years from now?
Right, and that's really where, you know, the planning part comes into place. You know, when we sit down with our wealth management team, one of the things they're going to look at is what amount of money do you need to generate in retirement, and remove the volatility from those dollars. And I think that a lot of times gets missed, and it happened last year. People said, well, I'm going to remove that volatility by the 40% I have in bonds with my 60-40 portfolio. And what happened? 15, 16, 17% loss in my safe money.
Right.
So
And it's something they learned for 20 or 30 years. Every
Right.
time there was an anomaly in the stock market, you go over to bonds. But this was a different world because
Correct.
interest rates were going up.
And not the
changed.
first time it's happened.
Right,
Right?
right.
I mean, this is a 2.5 out of every 10 years scenario. So if we can remove that risk, and there's tools and strategies in place
I'm going
for
to throw
people
it
to
out
do
there
that.
because we're going to have to cover this on another program, and let's also do it on the radio show. We've got to cover a little bit on annuities.
Yeah.
It's one of the tools that you use. But if we want to lock in one of those consistent income streams, are you in favor of using some annuities?
I am. Listen, $90 billion went into annuities first quarter of this year. There's a reason why. People were reacting to the market downturn. They wanted something that was going to give them zero downside market risk. They locked in income. They wanted a guaranteed lifetime income. And there's not another product out there that does that. Is it the right fit for everyone? Is there multiple types of them? Of course. But listen, if you've got a question about annuities, if you have a question about is that a good fit, not a good fit, that's the opportunity for you to take right now today. Pick up the phone and give us a call. 855-684-3485. We'll offer you a complimentary review, and more importantly, we can help you design your very own retirement blueprint plan. That's going to take in an income plan, tax plan, estate plan. It's going to make sure that you have long-term care, Medicare fixed, and of course the investment component of that, all under one roof with people that specialize in each of those different areas. What are you waiting for? You have questions, we have answers. Give us a call today.
You are retired, but your money needs to keep working for you. Call Tim Lofton, 855-684-3485. Get your own complimentary retirement blueprint. For Tim, I'm Spike Spengel. We are going to be back next week. Also, continue to listen to us on the radio show, WHIO, every single weekend, 1 hour of planning. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back next week.